How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, sitting across the way is Mr. Garrett Clarke of the Rolling Monkey in Statesboro, Georgia. For those that don't know, Rolling Monkey is a phenomenal handcrafted experience that delivers much more than just ice cream. They do a phenomenal job at inspiring their employees, probably better than anybody else in Statesboro, Georgia, probably the world. Mr. Garrett Clarke, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, Adam. Thanks,
Cool,
man. Happy to be here.
Cool. Yeah, so Garrett, I think, first things first, let's kind of like jump into it. What kind of made you go into the ice cream business of all things?
Right, yeah, man.
Give me the backstory.
For sure. Well, I mean, there's multiple ways to kind of look at it, but I think we'll start with self, kind of a looking at self, specifically around, am I living the best life that I can live? And so initially, I graduated with engineering and moved into that as a value stream engineer, looking at processes for 2 Fortune 500 companies.
Wow.
A lot of fun.
Okay.
Great time, really. Had great leadership, great mentors, a lot of flexibility, a lot of autonomy. But through this, the question rose probably around the age 25.
Okay.
So probably half decade working in the kind of professional career. I started to ask myself, is there more? Right. So in essence, it was following the track and path that, let's say, leadership kind of guided me through parents, mentors, you name it, kind of the profession element, check. So kind of had that dialed in and had the home, had the beautiful wife, had the beautiful son, kind of the American dream kind of image, right? That's
Absolutely.
everything I was striving for. In essence, I'd reached that. And
you had done all this by age 25?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the age 25.
All right.
But at that point of time, it was reflection.
Okay.
It was kind of reflecting and saying, okay, this is the trajectory that I'm going to be on for a long period of time. Is this what I want it to be? And so I kind of extrapolated that out to see where would I land in a decade, 20 years. Would this be where I want to be? Am I good here? And after really a deeper analysis, it was, you know what, I think that there's something missing, but I didn't know what it was. It was kind of this intuition feel of something doesn't seem right. And I guess kind of a comparison of where I was at 25 to 20, even though I had, let's say, more material things, more prestige, all of these different kind of things that, let's say, the world tells you need. It didn't feel as though I was doing it right. So read through the Bible a couple of times, which really just kind of jumped in.
Were there answers in there?
Where's
the entrepreneurial part in the Bible?
It's all there. But yeah, man, it was really looking for, but that's a lot. There's a lot of answers there.
Absolutely.
So it was really trying to distill it down simply.
Okay.
So really kind of looking, okay, what does Jesus say? I really trust this guy. He seems to have all the power and capability and intelligence, but he comes down here and scrubs people's feet.
Sure.
And he's sharing this message of love. And so I was like, okay, that's so I really honed in on what he was saying. Service to others, love to others. But it was still, again, it's the Bible, right? So you've got a flood of answers and wisdom within that. And I was trying to say, how do I narrow the focus and understand where do I need to be? What do I need to be doing?
Sure.
So I kind of took it from an engineering perspective.
Okay.
And then
as you do most things, let's get that one thing. If there's somebody that does engineering, that's you.
So it reverse engineering the longest living people in the world. Well, let's say discovering who were the longest living people in the world. So from an evolutionary biology perspective, it was the Okinawans, a little region in Japan, a small little area. And on average, these individuals lived 7 years longer than the next longest living centenarians. So it's an abnormality, from looking at the data set.
And so from what you found, why was that the case?
So there's a group of scientists and researchers that went in and studied them. And what they determined and distilled it down to, along with healthy eating and diet and some other physical aspects, but from a mental perspective, they did what they loved, did what they were good at, so that overlap being passion. And then they did what served the community's needs, not desires necessarily, but really what does the people need in the local space. And so with that gift, so discovering their passion, what they loved, what they're good at, kind of harnessing that passion, and then serving their community with that passion, and then getting an exchange of I guess money, some currency, putting bread and food on the table, not in excess, but enough to sustain.
Mm-hmm.
And they were some of the most fulfilled and happy people based on kind of objective measures.
Got you.
So not only the longest living, but some of the most fulfilled people
Absolutely.
in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the audience may be aware of blue zones.
Mhm.
They're within a blue zone.
Okay.
So I think there's 7 of them in the world.
So what does that mean, being in a blue zone?
A blue zone is kind of this self-sustaining ecosystem to where it promotes good quality of life,
Mhm.
and it's sustainable within the ecosystem. So these have kind of been identified as like, hey, this is what we want to move into as a species, as Homo sapien. We want to be
Is that what we have over at the Blue Mile? Is that a blue zone?
getting there.
Getting there.
Yeah,
Okay,
we got
okay.
folks like Philip and others trying to bring it to life.
Love it. But yeah, so blue zones.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, blue zones.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing was there was a direct correlation with what Jesus had mapped with kind of what I would say is mission, which is love and, let's say, service to others. That being kind of the overlap of mission, passion being love, and then good at.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at the pay for aspect, if you can imagine a Venn diagram, and maybe we could post the image up so individuals can see what that looks like.
Absolutely.
On the bottom, you've got the pay aspect. But it's important to understand that the way that Okinawans did this is pay was last. It wasn't the first priority. And I think from what I was guided into throughout my youth was ensure that you get a job that pays well. And I get that. Because Maslow's hierarchy, again, another image we can put up, but kind of psychology 101, you've got this pyramid and you've got the base needs that a human needs in order to progress up into love and belonging. And then beyond that, we talk about inspiration. Those base elements need to be met in order to get to that, what Maslow would say is self-actualized, kind of this overflowing abundant state, and creative state as well. So in order to reach that, you've got to have the base pay and all these different things, the safety and security. So I get leadership, let's say parents, mentors, the education system, really encouraging that first things first, you get that handled. But I think what we're starting to see is a reevaluation of priority of values, hence the Great Resignation, which I'm sure we can get into discussion around that.
Of course.
So you have, if you place the value of the dollar first, you might get on that track, and then it becomes everything. It basically grasps you. And then you may never discover that thing that you're really good at or love.
Sure.
Or how can you really serve people to where it brings you that useful feeling of being a useful individual in the world.
Sure.
So it's a very interesting thing to kind of come across this map.
Sure.
So I use this as a map to pretty much say, okay, what is my ikigai? So I'm within profession, getting paid for and good at it.
Sure.
But how much do I love it? And I think it kind of...
So you mentioned the term ikigai.
Yes.
Yes. So what is that?
Purpose. So it means, the way the Japanese or the Okinawans term this is reason for being.
Okay.
So purpose. So kind of a overlap of vocation, profession, mission, and passion. Yeah. And the vocation aspect is the overlap of what do you get paid for and how do you serve the world with that. So vocation.
Sure.
So in essence, this was a distillation of all of that. It kind of met Maslow's hierarchy, all the needs within that, as well as just providing a clear direction and map. Sure. And so with engineering and systems kind of being my passion, value stream mapping was a tool that I was given from Lean, Toyota, kind of Lean methodology, to where I then started looking at mapping cultures and mapping, myself as a system, as an individual, and how do I optimize my performance as an individual? And then that bled over into how do I optimize that within multiple individuals coming together and looking at that as a system. And then really using this framework first to unlock my potential and say, okay, what am I passionate about? What fuels me up to give me energy? And how do I serve people with that? So gaining that clarity and kind of cutting out the noise allowed me to do that with myself and then move up into this very inspired, energetic, passionate state. And then therefore, able to kind of, get compensated for that. But that clarity, I then started sharing with other people.
Inside the organization.
Inside the organization, everybody. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, so It was at Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems, where we manufactured large gas frame turbines.
Yeah.
So that's where the work started. And then I later left for a subsidiary of Toyota, Koyo J-Tech.
Okay.
We manufacture like aerospace and automotive parts for GM, Chrysler, Ford, but the majority of the company owned by Toyota. So a lot of that methodology, that lean kind of way of being, which also fed into some of this work that I have around the idea of servant leadership.
Sure.
So the Toyota really looks at the hierarchy, not so much of this, but it was kind of this teaching of, hey, the leader is down here and supporting those who add value to the customer.
So in all of this, I'm still trying to get to ice cream. Like,
Yeah,
how do we get to the ice cream, man?
There's a lot to it, but pretty much we've looked at the Okinawan's framework that in essence aligns with Christ.
Okay.
And so for me, with my belief set, I'm saying, hey, this is the signal, this is the direction. How do I do this?
Sure.
So using that framework, it then became something that we put up on a chalkboard in the house. And in our office, we've got a little chalkboard. And I drew up the 4 circles overlapping. And then I asked myself, what is it for me? As well as Megan. In essence, the kind of discussion that we wanted to, or had was, how do we converge to a similar mission?
And Megan is just so that the audience knows.
My wife.
Okay, got it.
So Megan is was a special education teacher, very personable people person. So I'm kind of the analytical guy, and she's the people person. But 2 very different personality types. But within this, we wanted to pursue something together over individual kind of aims. So typically, you see someone has a profession or a passion, someone else, partners have a different profession and passion. And while those things, we've seen models where they coexist very well, my theory, and I guess looking at others who have done it well, was kind of having the same mission, kind of converging to where if say we got into it that day, we could still be working towards the same thing. And I just saw it as a sustainability aspect for our marriage.
Gotcha. So this chart, this ikigai, was placed in the house.
Yes.
And then there was a focus of both of you to be studying it, to figure out how you guys could work together to achieve what it is.
Right.
Long life.
Yes.
We want those 7 years.
Yes.
Got you.
Yes.
Got you.
For sure.
Gotcha.
So long life and the kind of the purpose, the fulfillment that kind of would maybe bring me back to the state I was at 20 versus the state I was at 25.
Understood.
So kind of a fulfilling, searching for meaning, searching for purpose really is what it came down to. And I wasn't clear at the point. So in essence, it took 2 years of me and Megan throwing things at this target to see what would stick.
Give me a couple examples of what we went through.
So
it's going to be good.
Snowboarding.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I love it.
Uh-huh.
I'm fair at it.
Okay.
Could I serve people with it? Maybe I could inspire them.
Gotcha.
So a rationalization of that. Am I going to get it paid for this?
Uh-huh.
No, I'm not.
I also heard the story about Megan going snowboarding.
Yeah,
so that was another factor in there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yes. So right, that would have maybe aligned in basically an evaluation. So love, 10 out of 10, love snowboarding.
Sure.
Good at, measured at maybe 7.
Sure.
Let's say 6.
Sure.
Right. You look at Sean White. Anyways. So kind of measuring that, and then Megan outlining it, saying snowboarding for her doesn't work. So just kind of an objective, again, very basic mathematics of overlaying to see, will this both allow us to move towards something together? No. And for her, it was other different things of maybe animal care or continuing with special education, all of those things. I mean, I appreciate and I love, but it wasn't like that jive. Until our wedding planner said, hey guys, I know you guys are looking for kind of a business model, something that really meets these elements. Go check out this rolled ice cream place.
Okay.
And so
where was it?
Savannah.
Okay.
So we go check it out. It's in the middle of December. Line wrapped around 2 blocks.
Okay.
We're like, what is this?
Sure.
This is special.
Sure.
It's serving the community. The community is flocking to it.
Sure.
And they're stoked. They're excited.
Sure.
And then I'm over here calculating. I'm saying, okay, the money aspect.
Sure.
You can make money on this thing, clearly.
Sure.
And then looking at the process and mapping the process, I was like, we could be good at this.
Sure.
This is a process of flow, and as engineering, value stream mapping, definitely we could do this. And then do we love it? And Megan is just lit up from ear to ear. She loves it because not only do we all love ice cream, I mean, both her and I. She initially a little more than I, but she was just giddy about the connection aspect.
Sure.
The just the interaction, the artisan aspect. So for those of you who don't know, Roll a Monkey, it's kind of hibachi style ice cream way of we make
That's
things.
a good way to explain it. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of energy.
Handcrafted. Like absolutely.
Yes, handcrafted. Kind of a create to inspire is our motto.
Yep.
So using what we call a canvas to kind of create. But anyway, seeing that really inspired her, and it inspired me. And so we went back to the drawing board and we kind of plugged in our numbers on that, and it was like, hey,
this is the one.
This model can work.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I love it. Was probably 8 out of 10 for her. It was 10 out of 10. But I was like, you know what? I can love this over time. And boy, have I, because it has become so much more than ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream has been the medium,
yeah.
But really the work and what we've been led into is working to unlock the potential in people.
Yep.
Do the same thing that I did within myself and that Megan did, and try to share that with the youth that maybe didn't receive the guidance that I had, and also was lacking. Just trying to fill a leadership void of guidance around priority of values.
Yeah, a ton to unpack there. Like obviously, like, you know, you have had this like journey in which you finally found the thing that you were looking for. You bring it in, and then you're starting to create, you know, these connections with your employees that is much deeper than, you know, oh, we're come roll ice cream. Right. And I think that's what makes your organization a lot more different than anything else out there. You know, when you step into that facility, you feel the energy that these artisans, as you like to call them, instead of employees, like you're right?
For sure.
Artisans.
For sure.
Changing kind of like that mentality route and giving them the opportunity to grow. And, you know, just as a touch point, what has, like, number one, how difficult was that to initially build? Because when you guys first started out, I mean, I think it was, you know, very, you know, are you sure? How do you structure this? So forth and so on. Like, how difficult was that to build? And then furthermore than that, what has been the return on that investment into your employees?
For sure. Initially, a lot to it. There was a lot of confidence. So there's a concept that we look at called the Dunning-Kruger Effect.
Okay.
And I would probably say I was overly confident.
Okay.
And did not have the skill.
As most entrepreneurs are. We always jump into it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So there was the thinking that, okay, if this thing's going to sustain us, and we're going to do this, let's do it big.
Yeah.
And so we did it with the intention of franchise.
Yeah.
So initially kind of develop the prototype and then scale it out to have this bigger impact and have sustainability and just do it big. So it was a lot of thinking of how is this repeatable? So from the get, I think we did a really good job with asking, how can someone else, the next franchisee, come in and replicate this? So from the foundation, we're always asking that question. How's it replicable? And so there's a lot of that built into it. However, a lot of unknowns throughout the process as well. But really, I think our energy really allowed us to attract some very great talent because we were so enthusiastic and involved in the process that we really formed a really great team. So I may be a little bit optimistic or saying, you know, that it was easy, but it really, we stayed in that flow state. You know, we were just in the zone, moving through it. Tremendous challenges, most certainly. We actually were this close to opening on Tanger Boulevard in Pooler, and thank God we didn't.
Why?
Basically, there was through the legality and the contract and all of this, there was just things that didn't align, and I didn't want to get locked in a 5-year contract if this is how we were starting off the bat with not being fully transparent. Trust is very strong. Integrity is a very high value of ours. So I just wanted transparency and to know that I could trust, who I was working with from a landlord perspective.
Sure.
So that was kind of something that didn't work out. Pretty much, we were spec'd to go in one space, but we were shifted down, and then the space was different from what we originally looked at. All of that, and then last minute they were wanting us to sign. And I was like, nope, we're out. However, we invested so much time, effort, and energy into preparing. This was the one spot. We had looked at other spaces, but we had invested so much into this one space and how it would work. And then last minute, it's not working.
Wow.
Yeah. So with that, again, some prayer, some soul searching of like, what are we going to do next? And I really leaned into Megan on this one. I was like, okay, Hilton Head, Savannah, Statesboro. And when I said Statesboro, she just lit up.
Why?
She's just this is where we fell in love.
Oh.
This is where she moved into special education. She was, I think, originally doing education, and then worked for an individual who had a son with special needs, or individuals. And she just fell in love with serving and giving and supporting those with needs. And so there's a lot of history in Statesboro for us. And when I said that, the opportunity to come back and work here, she was just like, yes, bring me back to my second home. She's from California, but I roped her in here.
Good job.
Yeah, man. Farmersonly.com is a great application. I kid. And for those of you who have met through that, congratulations. Megan is probably watching this, just having her face right now.
It's great. It's great.
But that's it's a funny icebreaker when people ask how California, how Georgia, how did it happen? But yeah, man, just a lot of good history. But we came to Statesboro, and if we did not come to Statesboro, we would have not made it.
You think so?
Through the pandemic, Statesboro sustained us. The community aspect, it was a blessing. For me, I'm thinking Tanger, I'm thinking all that the action and right there with everything going on off 95 and the new development, the new Savannah.
Sure.
But Statesboro has really been a blessing, and I'm stoked to be here. So yeah, there are some tremendous challenges that we faced, but kind of from the reward aspect, it was really discovering that this is so much more than ice cream. Initially, I think it was like, okay, this is ice cream. This is us finding our own individual ikigai, reason for being, purpose, and we do want to share that with others. But then the mission manifested into solely dedicating our focus to building young leaders, to help give individuals the clarity, the love, the discipline, the encouragement, all of these different tools and resources to help bring them to a level to where they would be prepared to chase their dreams. Because there's just so many challenges in today's exponentially ever-changing world. And the university does a great job in trying to prepare youth for the workforce.
You think so?
Well,
I challenge that.
I have criticisms. I do, and I was going to get to the criticism, but I wanted to preface it to commend those who have built something of integrity and something to not take for granted, because there is a tremendous structure of value there. However, it can't keep up with the changing pace.
It's moving too fast.
It is. It's moving way too fast. And so I think that can get into our internship programs, which in essence, from an engineering perspective, it's a modular mechanism of innovation that can adhere to the university, that the large static body. Well, not, let's say dynamic, but fairly static, right? It moves very slow.
Yeah.
But a small business can adapt and move very quickly.
Sure.
And so our internship program has been something that we're able to take those going through the university program, bring them into real world business dynamics, and say, this is what you need to do in order to keep up in the real world. Yep. So when you graduate and you go work for that company, these are the things that they're going to be expecting.
So you're giving me super high level stuff.
For sure.
Give me like what the systems are in the business that have actually allowed you to achieve that. Because I'm sure there's some listeners out there that are very curious about.
Right.
Well, I mean, it sounds all good. I want
what's
the
ikigai.
Let me throw some circles on the bulletin board and hope everybody gets it.
Right.
But how do you implement that?
Great. So BOS, Business Operating System. So in essence, there's 6 elements of it. So the first element is that vision, is that ikigai. Clearly, where are you going? What is the aim? Where's the vision? So for us from Rollin' Monkey, it's to unlock the potential in people. So that's what we want to do. And create to inspire, that's how we do that. That's the mission. Basically, when people come into that ice cream shop, we're there to lead them to an elevated state. So the youth is actually leading the community to an inspired state. So that our first mission and clarity of our aim as leadership is we're investing in our youth, in our body, and in our culture, which in essence is a spirit. You can kind of name the culture, and it has a certain kind of spirit to it. So we work to bring the life out of our body, out of our culture. And then from there, that life overflows into the community. And so that's the vision. And then I guess the third component, which we're now kind of getting into from a scaling perspective, the franchising model, if we go that way, or bring in different investors, but the legacy aspect. What does that look like for the legacy? So investing in our employees, investing in our community should equate to legacy. So finding now partners that are passionate about unlocking the potential in people, unlocking the potential in community, basically like lights turning on lights. That's kind of this vision. And that's kind of the step one from a business operating system.
Okay.
So step two is the people component of it. Now, fortunately, our vision is people.
Sure.
So they really gel together. But within this, to really know how we're doing it, because one of the projects I'm working on is basically developing an open source blueprint on how to unlock the potential in people.
Yep.
So instead of going the Apple route and saying, hey, we've got all this great information, we've been able to do it, look at our great examples, no one else is going to know about this. It's proprietary information. The way that I want to go about it is basically popping the top on the hood and saying, this is why this model puts down what it does. This is why it's so strong. And then from there, work with people who know way more than we know to improve upon the model, to where basically there is a framework that is simply simple and can be applied to an ice cream shop and can be applied to a manufacturing facility, manufacturing large gas frame turbines. The same principles applying. So within this blueprint, it's basically measuring previous kind of subjective psychology metrics of, say, Maslow's hierarchy, right? Where to progress up to the top is kind of the target where you want to be inspired. You want to have meaning and purpose. So we actually measure Maslow's hierarchy. And we also measure Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's model of flow, which is kind of this not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, but that sweet spot. And this comes to some of my work within Koyo, which is that subsidiary of Toyota. I had a great leader who afforded me the opportunity to work with a fellow named Jamie Will, who I think he founded the Flow Genome Project, where him and his partner were working with Navy SEALs, extreme Red Bull athletes to reverse engineer flow states, basically peak human performance. And we worked to basically, the thing that I wanted to do was to quantify this map. So Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's model, again, something we can share with potentially the group. There's this flow zone. And what I wanted to do is place quantitative values on it. And the reason for that is because when I would go seek funding to do improvement projects within our facilities or work on certain problems, the executive group would have to see a calculated return on investment.
Sure.
And if they didn't see that, typically we didn't receive the funding.
Okay.
But I wanted to invest in people. So out of the value stream map, out of the system, I saw that people, if you could unlock the potential in people and build that synergy, that trust, unlock their potential, bring them to the more inspired states, the collective body, the system would improve drastically. However, the couple of times I approached the executive group, I didn't receive what I wanted because I couldn't paint the picture very well in a mathematical
What were you
form.
asking for?
Basically to
Gaming rooms?
Well, gaming, I mean, so you're getting into it, right? So I was asking to reduce our supervisors' overwhelm. And so typically a training plan or material time investment to allow our, let's say, management level leadership to be aware of how to break down the mountain, right? And so instead of looking at the peak of Everest, looking at the peak of all of these stack of papers, segment it. What is the next ridge? What is the next thing that doesn't overwhelm me? And it just allows me to pull out of that overwhelmed state into a flow state. And then on the other side, those who typically have more repetitive standard work, typically a little more bored. So on the flip side, they're not overwhelmed, but they're underwhelmed. And then that's not a peak state of performance. You're not engaged, you're not having fun. And the beautiful thing about Mihaly's model is there's a direct correlation with feeling and performance. And so flow equates to basically happiness and high performance. Overwhelm equates to anxiety and limited performance. Underwhelm equates to boredom and just this kind of depressed, very state. And so on that side, it was, yes, investing in things such as solutions of gamification. How do we make this process more fun? Even though it's boring and doesn't require a lot of thought process or maybe even skill, how can we introduce additional challenge to bring it to where individuals are performing better and feeling better, more happy? So yeah, it was a lot of subjective, like high level stuff that didn't make clear, okay, we're going to invest in this piece of equipment and then the return's going to be here. Yeah,
that's interesting. Do you think that that's really what kind of like made you move away from that organization?
Yeah. In essence, there's a part of it. And this part of trying to explain this story is there was this individual aspect, but I think you're touching on another part of the aspect within the work. Again, from a university perspective, that was a Fortune 500 company, was Koyo, J-Tech, a large entity that, like a university, couldn't move very rapidly. So leadership was very supportive, and they were like, "Hey, man, definitely, let's tap into our most valuable asset, which is our culture.
Sure.
But we have to go through a lot of red tape, a lot of change to change this." And for me, I was onto something.
Sure.
And I was ready to move.
Sure.
So it then became, okay, we're going to jump off and build our own value stream mechanism.
Got you.
Yeah.
And that kind of like led you down that path.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So the open source is kind of like the next step, right?
Yes.
What is after that?
Really, the more that I look into things, so you and I are in a group where we do some deep dive.
That's right.
And deep work and really look at some of these strategic elements. What is our, as Jim Collins would say, our BHAG, big, audacious, hairy goal, this 10-year milestone way out there. And the more that I kind of look at this framework, which is based on what I can tell the Rockefeller habits, lean methodology. You have lean methodology, and then it kind of morphs into Rockefeller habits and such, where we outline these things in the future and then work to reverse engineer them back and say, okay, here's where I'm going to be in 10 years. And I'm very good at that. And I've been doing that and putting plans together for that. However, I think I'm moving into a transition as I lean more and read more into the Word, with the Bible. And I think I'm trying to, I guess, humble myself and say that I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. And who am I to say I know where I'm going to be in 10 years? And kind of leaning more into showing up and just being led, kind of having this faith, leaning into the intuition, leaning into the divine, to kind of say, okay, this is where you need to go, while also still having that structure. So I'm working through the balance of that. But I think I'm going to a transition of stepping back a little bit from being so put something out there and just moving towards it. So I'm sure that I'm going to lose some things by transitioning away from that mentality. However, I'm faithful that I'll be led into things that I couldn't even perceive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of up in the air right now. But in essence, I think it would be to just continue to share this message, to work with, here it is, leaders, to basically share this way, this way of unlocking the potential in culture, in people, bringing people to a creative, abundant, overflowing state of inspiration, to putting them in an environment where they're not overwhelmed, where they're not underwhelmed, but right there in that sweet channel of flow, to give them clarity of almost a way of seeing the world, to where we fail forward, where we don't let fear consume us. Kind of a lens of the hero's journey is another part of this, is helping individuals believe in themselves.
So let's talk about that. Give me a story of, an individual that, your most rewarding experience with someone that has, gone through your system, because obviously, we work in a college town. We have people coming in and out.
Right.
But have kind of graduated, for a lack of a better term, through your system.
For sure.
And then what are they doing now?
Okay. So one individual was an intern. Well, she was an artisan who then really kind of initiated our internship program. She was like, here's my ikigai. Can you guys help me with this? And it was to be a guidance counselor. So psychology was her major. And so we developed a psychology internship program for her.
For ice cream.
For ice cream.
Yeah.
Because we're serving people, and psychology is the study of people, of the mind. So for me, it was like, duh. It was this, So I won't go into all of the depth of how I saw that psychology fed into marketing, into development of our people, all of these things. So basically, we created this position for her and worked with her. And then in time, she ended up becoming our project specialist to help us build out some of these programs, our internship program and other systems, this BOS that I was telling you about, this business operating system. And she was just a very, very capable and inspired individual who believed in us and had faith in us and allowed us to lead her. And we just excelled her to just being an amazing, capable individual.
Sure.
So to see where she was initially to where she had kind of moved to, and now where she's at, where she's actually achieved that dream job of being that guidance counselor, and now taking the ikigai framework into that, to where not only she's ensuring that the youth are doing something that they're good at and they're going to get paid for, but also, is it really going to serve the people, and are they going to love it? So she's bringing this ikigai concept
Sure.
into basically developing the next leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing the work that she's doing, and then also kind of scaling that with other schools. She's
Yeah.
working with other schools to share, how do we more effectively guide, right? Guidance counselor, how do we more effectively guide our youth at an earlier stage? Because Roll a Monkey, we're guiding youth, basically young adults that are moving into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say high school and college students is kind of where we develop and prepare.
Touch point. Yeah, that's where you have them. Yeah.
But she's going deeper. You know,
Yeah.
she's going into the youth and taking what we've worked on here and probably having a bigger impact
Wow.
through that. And then again, our hope with this is to scale it into the education system,
Sure.
where that model of let's say if she can build it into the standard work of a guidance counselor, and then share that. And when they look at how is she doing such a great job because she's inspiring other guidance counselors, and then they ask how and why, what's going on here, and then she can say, here's the standard work, here's the blueprint.
Sure.
And to see that and hear her testimony of that is very rewarding.
Mm.
And I would say probably the most rewarding thing that Megan and I have experienced, and our leaders who have worked to develop other leaders, is the testimonies.
Sure.
It's we've got a little jar that they gave us for, I forget which celebration it was, but basically notes of how we've impacted their lives.
Mm.
And just reading through that, man, if we ever have a challenging, tough time where we're a little bit defeated and maybe not have overwhelming hope, I'll just pick up that little jar and I'll just read.
Mm.
And it just fills me back up to know what we have done, how we have served. And that is probably, I call it gold. It's that's our currency is testimonies.
Yeah.
Because it really it's the proof in the pudding. It says this, you're doing it. Keep doing it.
From a business perspective, you want these people to work with you for as long as possible. But
Right.
what I'm keep on hearing is that it's more than just ice cream.
Yes.
Like, this is much more about having an impact on the world
Mhm.
than it is about the ice cream that you're producing. The ice cream's still important,
Right.
but that is just a vehicle to
Mhm.
get those people to exactly where they are. Because at the end of the, unless you are making some money on the guidance counselor that I would love to be a part of, right?
hey, we can
Right?
look at
I
that.
don't know what that looks like.
Right.
But in the long run, like that, that monetary value ceased to exist anymore, right?
Right.
Because she's going off now,
Mhm.
and then you talk about gold,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So that, I think, is super unique. That's
Mm.
a different approach than most businesses. All they care about is like, oh, do I make my bottom line? Did I make numbers?
Right. Yep.
Which is the Fortune 500 companies. That's
Right.
all they care.
That's right.
Right. So I think it's super unique that you're taking this approach.
Mhm.
In this journey, right? Like you've kind of like given me, this huge fulfilling thing. What has been kind of the biggest challenge for you as a entrepreneur in this space
Yeah.
and trying to achieve
Yeah.
those things?
Honestly, it's been coming out of businesses of excellence and having an understanding of the fundamentals of business, while then trying to still remain humble as I move into basically from a Fortune 100 company into a nobody, right?
Mhm.
A small business
Mm.
ice cream shop, and humble myself and lean into those that have started from the ground up, because I had certain principles of comprehension at the higher level and could see what needed to be built with some adjustments, my own critical adjustments. But then trying to navigate through what is signal, what is noise, what is it that I know versus what is it that this individual who's built from the ground up know, and trying to discern through the signal and the noise.
Mhm.
And what can I lean in that is really going to have a bigger change in the world? Because in order to change the way that businesses do business by unlocking the potential in people, well, I've got to shake things up at a foundational level.
Mhm.
And so it's trying to remain true to what are those foundational level elements, while also not reinventing the wheel completely, otherwise potentially not making it, and then leveraging kind of the paths that have already been paved by others, and marrying those together. And then also kind of determining what it is that we're really doing as I continue to lean into this faith and kind of am led into this work over just me saying, I know what it is that I'm doing. Because when people ask what it is that I do, it's all over the place. I'm doing all sorts, and it's very, I want to share what it is that I'm doing. But I find it very just surface level to convey that, hey, we're doing this or that, and it doesn't really get across. And so I'm really excited to be here with you today to really kind of talk through this in a longer form, to hopefully make it more apparent, make it more succinct, and hopefully attract individuals that can help me with this journey and with what it is that I'm doing. Because from the complexity side, I believe we're on the right track. I mean, we're producing it and developing it, but I don't think we're effectively sharing it from a PR perspective, from a story perspective. So it's now trying to leverage the hero's journey, storytelling, and put it in that hero's journey method to really share it in a way that resonates deeply with everyone. So that's probably been my biggest challenge.
Yeah. In terms of, your employees, talk to me about what you think the experience is for someone that works for Rolling Monkey versus somebody that works in just your standard retail. What are the kind of different, I don't want to call them perks,
right?
But there is a difference, right? Because obviously from the standpoint of, your employees, they enjoy their time there.
Right.
Which is rare. I'll be honest. I think in this day and age, it's very common for people to complain about their job. It's easy. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they dread the Monday or whatever it is.
Right.
What has been different about what you guys do?
Typically what we see is individuals saying that they look forward to coming to work, that work is their garden, is their happy place. And so if they're having challenging times in their other ecosystems and their other environments, that we have individuals show up off the clock just to be a part of that culture. And I think that's something that is different. To your point, typically it's, what time is it? I'm ready to get the hell out of here.
Yep.
Or, man, I can't wait until the weekend. Or, oh my God, it's Monday. It's a conveyance of, I'm not happy here. I'm a slave to this thing. And that's what we want to change. Is if we look at the amount of time that we dedicate to the base level of Maslow's hierarchy, which is money, we're slaves to money.
Sure.
Because we're collectively showing up to a space that we don't want to be there. If it were up to us, the chains would be broken free and we would run free, right? That's what you hear. And I don't want to be here. I can't wait to leave. I'm not looking forward to coming here. It kind of drains my soul, because there are negative aspects in there to where the culture can be quite toxic. And I believe that's because it hasn't been effectively engineered into the systems that these things, they can't exist in order to sustain. With what is coming and the change that is coming, those old models will not exist.
Sure.
There's a calling for new leadership, servant leadership, who understand how to really unlock the potential of people. Because when you have an unlocked potential in people, you have a culture that is turned on, it can be anti-fragile. So with all of we saw what restaurant and retail faced with COVID, and they were fragile. And so the individuals took advantage of the different things in play that hurt the businesses. Why? Because there was no trust. And so when an opportunity presented itself, the employee who had been, let's say, previously taken advantage of, then took advantage of the employer. And so what has to occur is there has to be a synergy, a trust, a bonding, to where the leaders really are meeting the needs of the people that make up the body of their organization beyond just the performance. We have to go deeper. We have to do more so that when shit hits the fan, the people come together and lift that organization up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gone.
Which happened during the pandemic for you guys.
Right.
Yeah. So for the employees, I guess how do you engineer that? How do you make that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah. So
You give me the secret sauce.
right. So we'll go back to the BOS.
Sure.
So step 1 and 2 we covered.
Okay.
So unlocking the potential in people, kind of measuring, making sure that, okay, the one metric that matters the most for us, and it leads into point 3. So step 1, vision, clarity of vision, investment of people, and then 3 is data, the signal. What is signal? What is noise? Is we're going through the world. A business has to be able to understand, where do we double down on? What do we focus on? And to me, the signal, what we measure, because what we measure improves linearly. What we measure and report out on improves exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
So what we measure and report out on are people, right? Are people inflow? Are people moving up to inspired states? Are people overcoming challenges? Are they failing forward? Are they continuously improving and developing, along with other measurements? But the data analysis and training those who we work with to use data.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, from the point of universities, one of the great gifts that I've been given, and so pursuing the kind of profession which really helped me with this work, to give credit to that, is being able to leverage and see data, and in essence, truth, right? That there is. It's not all just it's my truth, right? No, there's actually real truth, and then there's not. Like, and when I talk about it, it's sustainability, it's repeatability. There's
Mm-hmm.
ways to, my definition of truth, but in essence, I'm saying truth is like signal, and if we can see the patterns which are repeatable and exist time and time again, and we can harness that, and it guide us, and our values are of integrity and going to equate to sustainability, then that data can guide us to solve problems, which is the next point. Point 4 out of this BOS, business operating system, is how do you solve problems? And that's another passion of mine. Is what I did for Koyo was use basically a methodology, 8-step problem solving, which is the scientific method specifically modified for complex problem solving. So step 1, clarity of gaps. Step 2, define current state. Step 3, define a SMART target. Step 4, root cause analysis. Step 5 is kind of prioritization of the countermeasures that are defined based on the root causes. And then step 6 is kind of mapping it out into like a Gantt, owner, time, all of those things. And then step 7 is verification of getting to that. And if not, go back to step 4, root cause analysis, cycle through. Mm-hmm. Step 8 is to sustain it. Are sustainable measures in place, and how do you read it across? Mm-hmm. So that framework is how we solve problems. And there are some other great frameworks, IDS, identify, discuss, solve. And that comes from EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, which is a great framework for people who may be interested in looking at this thing that I call a BOS, Business Operating System, but basically the underlying principles that equate to building what it is that I'm talking about in a replicable form. So once you solve those problems, it's then with a sustainability aspect. So step 8 is systems, processes. Well, lean. That's my background and my passion. So it's how do we put this into a system of clarity? We're leveraging like mind maps to say, okay, at a high level, at 30,000 feet, this is what we're doing. But how does this break down into the weeds, and then being able to roll it all the way back up into the macro? So we can go from down at the foot level to 30,000 foot, and then have everyone in the organization being clear on that through our processes. And then the last step is traction, is marketing. But for us, the way we're looking at this is back to that point where I said we're probably the weakest on, because I think our BOS has been fully developed beyond this piece, and it's the story. So after we have the clarity of vision, we bring people towards that vision, and we're solving problems and overcoming the challenges. Almost, if you can think about, we bring people into this vessel, into this boat, and the sun is the vision, and we're going through these rapid seas of change, and we're moving towards this land, Mount Zion, right? This place of connectivity, of people coming together in love and supporting each other. What I like to call the hive state. Imagine honeybees kind of working together versus a bunch of selfish honeybees that are fragmenting and falling apart. So that's kind of the vision that we're moving into, and the waves are the challenges, but we're using the data and the problem solving to kind of overcome these waves, and then. The step 6 is the storytelling of this to attract others to come be a part of our fleet, to help us get towards this thing. And then it's a cycle. Again, PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So this cycle of the BOS is just something we continuously work to optimize. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I think I appreciate kind of like the analytical, right? Like from top to bottom, you have all these systems kind of like built out, and the systems basically are allowing you to kind of like create that structure and invest in your employees, which is the mission.
Right.
There might be some entrepreneurs out there, and this channel is for entrepreneurs, like people that want to get into this space. And they need to build a team around them, right? Like, if that's what's important to them.
Right.
Would you say that it's critical?
Yes. I haven't thought specific on this question, but I would say yes, because synergy is a multiplying factor. So 1 + 1 = 2. And if you have two individuals, kind of to the point back to Megan and I, if we're working towards two separate missions, our total output is going to be 2. But if we come together and we're working on the same mission, total output can be synergy, which is a multiplying factor, such as 1 + 1 = 4, 10, 20. And so knowing that, kind of like, again, with the honeybees, you come together and there's a synergy that forms. And so I think when you do that, you create a spirit, right? Anytime two come together, that spirit is there. You can define our spirit. When you and I come together, a certain energy forms, and we kind of create a microculture. It's like a fractal that can be scaled up and down. And so I think if someone has a dream and they want to have impact on others, they will need to find other individuals to have that bigger multiplying impact of their dream. So I would say certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is one advice that you would give to those entrepreneurs from your standpoint? And it doesn't have to, focus on the culture, which you absolutely could.
Right.
But what is something that you would like to leave the audience with?
Yeah. Get right on those values. Get right on it. Like I said, times are changing and selfishness will no longer sustain. We're being called to be servant leaders, and servant leaders will be the ones that persevere. So get clear on what the mission is. And I believe it is the people that you serve, and clarity of that vision, of that mission. And then once you do that and you unlock your passion around that, the money will come, but don't worry about the money first. I know that there are necessities, and sometimes you do have to shift that attention away from maybe the lofty passions to the hard numbers to keep the lights on. But the more that you can lean into the passion, the money will come.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for your time. How do people connect with you? What's the best way to get in contact with you, just to interact with you? I'm sure Rolling Monkey has a social media.
Yeah.
But I mean, what else is out there?
So we got our website. Just Google. The Rolling Monkey. We got our website. We've got LinkedIn. We've got YouTube. We've got Facebook. We've got Instagram. Any of those channels. We've got info@therollingmonkey.com. Feel free to just bounce an email. It'll get to us. We'll see it. And we look forward to anybody out there that wants to do more of this to just reach out and hit me up. We're ready.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely.